The current SDR role is stupid. Our customers hate it, that sifting and sorting our customers is insulting to them. It's insulting to the education that they've already done. It leads to no economic value for our customers and only increases our CAC. So those were the two buckets that I had. And I said, if a customer is savvy enough to fill out a form, then by definition, they've qualified themselves.
You're listening to the B2B Revenue Executive Experience, a podcast dedicated to helping executives train their sales and marketing teams to optimize growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. Let's accelerate your growth in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the B2B Revenue Executive Experience. I'm your host, Cory, and today I'm excited to be talking to Rob Auld. He's the CRO of Readymode, a leading predictive dialing software company recognized as one of Canada's top growing companies in 2023. Now, Rob has been instrumental in driving the company's growth and innovation, particularly through the adoption of AI and data-driven sales strategies, as evidenced by the company's tremendous success at the 2025 Stevie Awards for Sales and Customer Service, where Readymode won 2 awards for Sales Management Team of the Year and Achievements in Value-Based Selling. Previously, Rob was Global VP of Sales for Soti, where his laser focus on entering new markets grew the company's revenue to $100 million in only 3 years. He was also a sales leader at Augments. Under his leadership, the company doubled its revenue and secured $325 million in funding from Great Hills Partners. Rob has also led an extensive career at companies such as TELUS, Salesforce, and Avaya. Rob, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Cory. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get into it, especially I want to talk more about the intersection of AI and SDRs, and that's really a hot topic now.
Totally.
But first, let's start by going back and helping our audience get to know you a little bit better. So you've had a really impressive career in sales and revenue leadership across multiple industries, and now as a CRO of Readymode. What initially drew you to this world, and how did you kind of transfer and find your way to the revenue leadership side of things?
Yeah, so I'm going to make a short story long here a little bit. So I was married very young and I had children very young. So I was actually in university with a wife and 2 kids. And, we knew poor, like we looked up to poor. We thought poor was something to aspire to. And, as a 20-year-old with two kids and, a mountain of pressure and all that kind of stuff. I ended up graduating university in 4 years. And I had a university professor, actually. His name was Brian Casta. Sadly, he passed away a couple of years ago. And I remember at the end of a class in my 4th year, 3rd year, he said, Auld, I want you to come to the front of the class at the end. I'm like, uh-oh, maybe I'm failing, or maybe he's thinking I've cheated or something. And he said to me, Auld, I know your story, and you've been doing this marketing thing for, you're in marketing. And he's like, the reality is you have no future in marketing. And I was like, oh, that was like slightly hurtful. And he said to me, listen, you have 2 kids, you've got a family at home, you've got to go into sales. And that's where you can make some money. And you can do it relatively quickly. And that's really where you belong. And so I believed him. And I went to, actually I started my career very early at Gordon Food Service. I only spent about 6 months there, and then TELUS called me. And I ended up getting a job at TELUS. And from there, I just sort of worked my way up through the ranks. I actually spent 6 months at a tiny little startup called Salesforce.com back then, and then came back to TELUS. And really, when I first started, I was horrible at sales. How I did not get fired in my first year is beyond me. Just for the record, I would have fired me. What I learned in that first year is the best people did the same thing the same way over and over and over again. And if I just watched what they did and copied them, I could become proficient. And that's really what I became in sales. I became a proficient salesperson. Now, that wasn't going to lead me to millions of dollars and all that kind of stuff, proficiency. But I also realized because I was consciously incompetent and because I had to focus on what the process is, I became a decent coach at it. And that's really where my sales leadership track came out, was not being great myself, but really understanding the process, I could see the defects when people weren't following the process and then coach them back in through the process. And that's really where my sales leadership started. And then what I would say to most sales leaders is the worst job in any company is middle management. It is awful. You get yelled at by your boss, you get yelled at by your people, and you have very little power to do anything about either. And so what I quickly realized is if I'm going to do this sales management stuff, I want to get into a position where I can affect change at a wide scale. And so I became laser focused on growing my proficiency at leadership and coaching. So that way I could rise. And really, TELUS wasn't, some of the alums of TELUS call it, TELUS University because it is so complex and it is so big and there are so many products. It was really a fantastic education in leadership, in data, in, they put us in Rotman, like the training was so good that then I've been able to use that foundation and help these companies grow the way that we have. So that's my, as I said, short story long.
I think hands down that's the best origin story we've had so far. So that award goes to you, Rob. That's awesome. And one thread I really want to pull on that I'm fascinated by is, a lot of companies, they take their top performers,
Yeah.
kind of regardless of what leadership training they have, what coaching training they have, and they just kind of put them in that sales management or sales coaching role, and they say run with it. That doesn't seem to have been your experience. Would you or was it?
No, 100%. And this was the value of starting at a very large company because they knew that would be a mistake. Like the process there would not allow the best person who did not have coaching and leadership attributes to rise. There's, TELUS very much has antibodies all over it to avoid the, quote unquote asshole becoming the leader.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So
And by the way, not that every top performer is an asshole. I want to make sure that's
fair
clear.
enough. Sure. Yes. We'll clear that up and get that out there. Yeah. And so I guess that would be my next question is, do you think that is ideally the route that someone, yes, they need to have had sales experience, but it's much more about like getting them the leadership and development and coaching focus, and that's the people that we should put in sales management roles?
So I have a very simple 4 box. There's competence and conscious or unconscious. Okay. So very often the best salespeople are unconsciously competent. So, the analogy that I use is Michael Jordan, right? Michael Jordan, I could go up to him and I could say, teach me how to dunk a basketball. And he would look at me and he goes, I jump and I dunk a basketball, right? Like he's no longer consciously aware of what he does to dunk a basketball. So what we want are people that are consciously competent, people that have to think about what they do and why they do it, and then be willing to tweak what they do when the data shows that it's not working. That's who you are looking for in sales leadership. It's funny. I was talking to a founder just yesterday about this, and he said, I got this great salesperson. He's such a natural talent. He's unbelievable. And I said, whoa, pause. Has he ever coached somebody who's not as good? Has he ever taken the time to go into marketing and help out there? Has he ever put up his hand and said, I've seen a process that doesn't work? And the founder said, well, no. And I'm like, so, great salesperson, right? You want to keep him very happy doing what he's doing. But those are the attributes that you're looking for somebody who you want to lead a team.
Yeah, I think that's excellent advice. And my next question kind of ties into this a little bit too. So on your leadership journey, from getting into sales and like you said, maybe not being the best year one, but obviously climbing up, finding your sweet spot and what you're passionate about. Along the way, was there another pivotal moment that really kind of shaped your leadership style?
I would say there are 2 or 3 major things that I would talk about. One is I was lucky enough to hitch my wagon to somebody who was a very gifted natural leader. And unfortunately, he passed away too a little while ago. But Hugh Johnson was his name. And, he was probably the most emotionally intelligent leader that I've worked for. And I do not have his level of emotional intelligence by any stretch of the imagination. No one would accuse me of that in any way, shape, or form. But again, it's really about becoming consciously incompetent or consciously competent. And so he pushed my unconsciously incompetent to consciously incompetent. And that really matters. And I'll come back to that in just a second. The second bucket there is then the training that I received at TELUS. It is a mini MBA, but not an MBA in the sense of lots of group work and kind of, really, accomplish much. It was an MBA where, we had to sort this out and we had to figure out strategies and tools and processes that is going to make the company better. And then the third bucket is just what I was just talking about. It's this model of unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, conscious competence, unconscious competence. And I really use it to evaluate the entire companies that I talk about. And the reason I'm so interested in that is because unconscious competence is great. It means you don't really know why you're doing what you do. But then we have a mission, which is help you understand why you do what you do. That will only make you a better, even if you have all the natural talent, it will just make you better. The people you've got to watch are the unconsciously incompetent people. They're the ones with the biggest opinions, rooted in absolutely no facts, and they are eating your culture inside out because your entire organization is looking at them, rolling their eyes, waiting for you to do something about it. And when I realized that, that's when I realized, it's not about just results. It's about the how. And when you understand the how matters, unconsciously incompetent people deteriorate the how across the entire organization. And they are the folks we've got to move on, graduate to something else or somewhere else where they can be consciously competent.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I don't think I've ever heard it quite described like that, but now I'm linking it back to instances in my own mind and experiences, and I'm thinking, yep, there was a time to step in. There was a time to step in, and sometimes it happens.
And you really see it in sport, right? If you play basketball, if you play hockey, the fourth liner who believes he or she should be on the first, and sort of the rest of the team is looking at them like, but you're just bad at this, right? Like you're not good at this. And that's the you see it in sport very, very often. And in sport, often there's antibodies in the team that solves for that in a locker room, or coaching or some other way. In organization, often prioritize getting the job done, like something is better than nothing, without realizing how detrimental that something is.
For sure. I mean, you mentioned that the analogy of sports, I think, is a great one. And like you said, there are other things working to your favor in those situations in that environment that you might not have inside a company. But have you seen it the case where they're through coaching or through some other mechanism that you can get those people back on the right path?
So unconscious incompetence is emotional as well. And so what I mean by that is, yes, I have seen it. However, the emotional toll it takes on that individual is enormous because it requires this shift that then they realize this thing that I thought I was amazing at, I actually suck at. And everybody has been looking at me thinking I suck at this, but no one's told me. And so it's possible to come out the other side, but boy, it is a toll on the psyche. It is very, very difficult.
Yeah, I imagine it's a toll on the psyche from a management perspective, delivering that news as well.
Correct. Yeah.
So let's shift gears a little bit because I know that Raymode's done some fascinating things with AI, and
Yeah.
you've been at the forefront of this for a while, AI powered transformation in sales. So what originally kind of sparked your interest, and how did that interest grow into a core of your approach today?
Yeah, absolutely. So it came from a belief that I was way behind. And so I think a year ago, myself and our director of enterprise apps, Oliver, we were chatting, and I said, we should really look at this AI stuff. Like, we're probably way behind. We're a small company. I'll bet you there's a bunch of people that are just way out in front of us. We got to make sure we're driving productivity. And if everybody else is doing this and we're not, we're going to be left behind because our cost structure is going to be very different. And so it came out of panic and a belief we were way, way behind.
That makes sense. I think a lot of us had that moment, that
Yeah.
wake up call, for sure. But it's interesting, right? Because there are, and I think it varies, right? When you get in large organizations, it's obviously takes a lot more energy to slow down the ship, to turn the ship, and of course, in more regulated industries, finance, healthcare, there's a different level of concern there. And at the same time, across the board, I've seen a lot of businesses that are still hesitant to dive in.
It, it's so,
Why is that?
yeah, it's so funny that you said that. So coming from this massive insecurity to, I actually went to Dreamforce to figure out, hey, everybody else is probably way ahead of us. So let's go out where all the people are and figure out what they're doing. And then I realized, actually, no one's doing a lot. Like, we're all talking about it, just no one's doing it, right? And so what I realized is if we get out ahead of this, there's going to be a dramatic first mover advantage because the cost savings we're going to be able to drive in terms of CAC is going to be a competitive differentiator beyond the product, beyond the problems that we solve, beyond the value we can provide to our customers, because either we can alter, we can be disruptive around price, or we can be disruptive around profit, or we can be disruptive around both of those two buckets. So Oliver and I did a bit of an exhaustive search, and we realized, hey, not many are doing this, but we think we have a thesis around how we would do this if we wanted to do it. And that was solve one problem, just solve one problem at a time. Do not do anything but solve one problem. And that's really what we did. That's really what we focused on. And the problem was the form fills. And the sort of corollary to that is a belief that I have that the current SDR role is stupid, that our customers hate it, that sifting and sorting our customers is insulting to them. It's insulting to the education that they've already done. It leads to no economic value for our customers and only increases our CAC. So those were the two buckets that I had. And I said, if a customer is savvy enough to fill out a form, then by definition, they've qualified themselves. And I thought, so then we were looking at tools in the market, and we thought, hey, there's a tool that we could plug into our site that will answer every question based on our customers' questions. And it answered it because, I also have this thing where I want everybody to do the same thing the same way over and over and over again. Our AI does the same thing the same way over and over and over again. And when we want to make it tweak, when we want to coach it, we tell it once to do it differently, and it does it differently. And we have seen a dramatic change in what our SDRs do, the economic value our SDRs provide, and a much more satisfied customer base when it comes to our new business motion.
Wow. I mean, I love that advice too. Just the one problem.
One problem.
It's so tempting to chase here one problem at a time. And that seems like it was a very impactful one that you did solve.
Yeah, it changed the SDR. When I look at what our SDRs used to do, we had 5 of them before. We have 4 of them now, and we're going back to 5. They were basically 80% of their time, 90% of their time sifting and sorting and quote unquote qualifying. And what we have done is we've now put them to 100% outbound motion. So the leads that fall off, customers that leave us, deals that we close, we have a process to push these to the SDRs, and then we outbound them. Now think about what that does for the CAC as well, right? Because now all of a sudden, we've got this lead, they ghost, they close loss, whatever happens, we're not giving up on that lead. We're just finding a more appropriate time to re-engage with that potential buyer. And we were up about 2x what our best month is, or best quarter is last quarter in just outbound sales.
Wow, that's extremely impressive.
Yeah. So all of a sudden, right, we've got this thing that operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When our customers want to engage with us, they can absolutely engage with us. And then during business hours, we're calling out to people that have put up their hands before, already been pre-qualified, and we re-engage them, and we're seeing unbelievably good success.
I'm curious about the intersections here between AI and the human SDRs, because I think My question is 2 points. One, I'd love to know how you communicated this change, because I'm thinking if I'm an early stage seller SDR and I'm hearing, oh, we're bringing in AIs now, I'm thinking, oh, I got to look for a job,
Yeah.
you know? So how did that go?
Yeah, no, it was scary for them, right? What was important for them is sifting and sorting is not sales. They aren't learning anything. They aren't developing anything. They are a spreadsheet, a human spreadsheet that if you tick a few boxes, then you get access to talk to the more special AE. It just flies in the face of the democratization of the internet, the democratization of ChatGPT, the education of our buyers. Frankly, it insults the education of our SDRs, who are fabulous. Now they're getting a real skill that they can translate into what sales looks like. There is a direct correlation, and there has been for my entire career. The hunter profile far exceeds the farmer profile in compensation, in career, in all the aspects of the profession in which we find ourselves in. And we are now training this group of people to be a hunter. And if they're consciously incompetent or consciously competent, then we are willing to coach and develop so that way that they're going to get there. And by the way, that's the other big piece of why they have been so effective. Our sales leader who coaches the SDRs, start of this quarter, made a very specific intentional goal and followed up with some process and infrastructure to coach people. And boy, did she ever see the result from the work that she did this quarter.
That's such a good story. And yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Even when you were originally telling how you did it, I'm thinking, wow, like if I were an SDR in that role, yes, maybe a little bit of anxiety at first, but how the role transformed, I think one, that's going to be much more rewarding, right? And it's going to be much more impactful from an education and career development perspective.
100%. And whether they felt all that way, I don't know, right? But that's all we can control is our intention, and all we can control is sort of doing the right thing for the business and the folks who work for us. So that's I'm not saying it was all roses, but I am saying there was method behind the madness. It's not just me sitting in a room figuring out how I can change everybody's existence, right? There's reasons why we do this stuff.
For sure, for sure. And I mean, and in the investment in coaching and things like that, I think that always, employees feel valued when they have that. I'd love to get your opinion on this one, Rob, because I have spoken to people and I hear it a lot that, some people just want to kind of rip and replace all of the SDR roles, including outbound, and have that managed by AI. And, personally, I think that we're in a really exciting time. Maybe that's viable moving forward. And at the same time, I think there are still a lot of gaps and there's still a lot of
100%
mistrust out there. What do you think?
Yeah. So Tuba, I'm going to sort of appoint myself go-to-market AI expert. Okay. So because we are much further ahead than most of the organizations who reach out to me and want to talk to me about this stuff. And what I will say is this notion that we're going to replace humans anytime soon is fantasy land. The volume of hallucinations is highly disturbing. And using it as an augmentation tool is the way we are going to start this. I saw some data the other day that said, I think Grok 3 is the most accurate. And I think it was still hallucinating 30% of the time. So, and just, it lies. Like, you have to understand what a hallucination is. Think of it like a 4-year-old who you say, did you spill that milk? And the 4-year-old says, I absolutely did not spill that milk. Right? Like and it will hold on to that lie. And so we are not ready for, by any stretch of the imagination, for human replacements around AI. Quick questions, satisfying that last sort of, hey, I've done a bunch of research, but I really want to understand your pricing model, or I really want to understand how you compare against your competitors. I really like it for that because it's hard for it to hallucinate. And if it does, the world doesn't come to an end, right? Very often you'll have SDRs who will mess up the pricing model. It's not a game changer, but if we wanted to sign a contract with somebody and it puts the wrong price on that contract or the wrong terms and conditions or like that's where the risk expands dramatically.
Yep, I completely agree, and I think that it's intriguing. I think the last couple of months, it definitely has its uses, right? Augmenting coaching for sure can transform that, like synthesizing data, doing research. It's fantastic. And at the same time, right? I think we're hallucinating ourselves a little bit if we say things like, "Oh, it's perfect," or "It's actually going to be a rip and replace model for people."
Not anytime soon, from what I can see. We're actually launching it on our so we've launched support directly in our product as well. So I run our support team as well. We've launched chat in our product, and very soon we're going to be launching AI in our product. But it's funny, it's solving exactly the same problem that we solved on the front end. It's solving the sift and sort problem. It's, hey, I'm having problem with X. It's deciding, do you need a human to solve this problem, or do you need a video to solve this problem, or do you need like me to talk you through how to solve this problem? It's making sure our customers have the answers at their fingertips, that they could go to the web, maybe go to our site and pull down a video and solve for themselves. But it's just a way to sift and sort. But it's also going to say, no, hey, you've got a problem, you need to talk to a human, and we'll pass to a human. Now, I think that's transformative in the customer experience. Regardless of whether or not it saves us money, it doesn't matter. That is transformative when we think about how our customers can get to support. But it is not replacing humans. I want to be perfectly clear. And here's something that we have found. Our thesis was, when we launched chat directly in the product, our volume of phone calls, inbound phone calls, would go down, and our total volume of cases would shift from voice to chat. That did not happen. All that happened is we doubled our interactions with our customers, because it turns out our customers wanted to talk to us, and we want to talk to our customers. So this notion that it's replacing is not true. Your customers probably are annoyed with you in some way, shape, or form at any particular time. And by letting them reach out to us, we are dramatically improving our customer experience. And that's really what AI should be about. It's not about replacing humans. It's about giving your customers what they want when they want it. And when they need to talk to a human, you absolutely have to get them to talk to a human.
It's such important advice. And I was talking to a guy yesterday who was telling that kind of a funny story about SaaS companies that want to change their pricing models
Yep.
and structures, and he's kind of an expert in helping them. And he said that a lot of them at that time, they want to go out and do a bunch of this market research. He's like, no, just talk to your customers. They want to talk to you, right?
I could not agree with that more.
So let's dive into the customer experience a little bit in terms of your sales transformation. So the AI and change up the SDR role was a huge pillar there. And then you also shifted to more of a value-based approach and rolled out the value selling framework and across the revenue engine, right? So marketing, sales, customer success. So what, in your opinion, Rob, made that the right methodology for Readymode? And talk to us a little bit about your decision to train across the revenue engine.
So a couple things. First of all, a lot of sales methodologies are very, very similar. I have been trained in solution selling, SPI. I've been trained in TAS, and I've actually brought value selling to 4 companies now. So I'll give myself a bit of a self-appointed expert in sales methodologies. Couple things. Sales methodologies are a waste of time, money, energy, and effort if it's an event. If you do this as an event-based thing, stop. Just don't do it. It's like, don't waste your money. You will see no benefit to this whatsoever. I take a bit of a different approach, maybe. And the first thing we did is trained our marketing team and our leaders, because we need it is no good to train the salespeople when we and leadership are not speaking the same language. So we've spent a lot of time on marketing and sales driving a value-based message. Here is what we launch a new feature. How does it solve a problem? We launch a new feature. How does it solve a problem? And that's the language that we are using across the board. The other reason why I start with marketing and the leaders is because if you do an event-based training for salespeople, and they get back to their desk and nothing has changed, nothing is going to change. Let me be perfectly clear. And so this is where we spent all of our time right now, just on sales leaders, marketing, getting this up and running. The salespeople then become almost an afterthought to this because we are so inculcated in the leadership that then salespeople become they have to adjust because we've already adjusted. And that to me is really the way that you roll this stuff out. And that's how we've done it.
Yeah, I think that is phenomenal advice. Like you said, if you're just going to buy a sales methodology and do a day training, like nope, no, it is a change management process. Requires ongoing. It requires, to your point, leadership top down, right, to drive adoption throughout the org. And like you said, you got to get marketing on board. You got to put something in CRM because if salespeople go through it and come back, nothing's changed. They're just going to go back to what they did the day before.
I also want to say something very clearly to the industry. This spend one day with me and I'll change your life. Spend 2 days with me and we'll transform everything you've done. That is equivalent to snake oil salespeople stuff. There's nothing life-changing about a single day. Like you cannot wake up I cannot wake up in the morning on a Tuesday and decide today I'm going to lose 50 pounds. It's not possible. And people who tell you it's possible are lying to you. The work comes in the process and the infrastructure. Those are the two pieces of work as you launch. Sales methodology is like the third thing on the list. It's like figure out what the process needs to look like, figure out what the infrastructure to support the process needs to look like. Then you plug in the sales methodology and away we go. And it's hard work, 6 months to a year to see real adoption.
Absolutely. I agree. So let's fast forward 6 months to a year out. So you've got the process, the infrastructure, the right tech, you've transformed the roles, you've added in the right methodology. So what impact has this had, on your customers, your employees, and business?
Yeah. So our conversion rates were already good. And I mean like industry leading good. Our lead to close win rate is over 35% today. So like lead to win. So that's not like up to win. That's like from lead coming in the organization to win. One of my, an average salesperson is doing above 30 transactions a month. Now they're small, they're SMB transactions, but that is incredible productivity. In the SMB world, an average AE is doing over $1 million of ARR a year. And that is an SMB, right? That's not a $1 million deal enterprise AE. That's, $6,000 at a time, just churning it, churning. I have to give a mountain of credit to marketing here. I want to stop and just my default position is sales. What our marketing leader has done in terms of the marketing mix, figuring out the messages that resonate with our customers, improving the quality of our lead base, because first of all, she's a pro. Second of all, right, the common language really, really helps there as well. And then the folks that she's hired, being able to drive content that our customers care about, that allows the conversion rates that we've seen. It's not, crappy stuff coming in and our sales team is just turning it around. It is unbelievably high quality. Our spam scam leads, our unqualified leads, they're below 6%. It is just, she just has a rhythm to this that is fantastic. And that leads to really this where we are today. And the second bucket is, our sales leader, he has figured out a way to inspire his team. Our average tenure on that team is almost 4 years. 100% of them have grown through SDR through to AE. And so you add in sort of the process to just high level of competence at your job. That's how you get where we are today.
I mean, for our audio listeners, they can't see my facial expressions, but you did. My eyes are just wide, and I'm just a phenomenal story. And I'd love to get your marketing leader on the podcast as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hear that side of things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You absolutely should talk to Linda because she is a pro. and has, really understands a concept that I think marketing needs to do a better job of, sort of industry wide. My former boss, he talked about expected value of leads, right? That you've got to think about what the expected values are. And she understands innately that organic are by far the highest expected value leads. So investing in the brand, investing in content, but also using paid to augment has paid dividends for us because our mix has changed from paid to organic. And she innately understands what that does to conversion down the funnel.
It's excellent advice. I 100%. And it's great to hear that from the CRO perspective too, because I think that sometimes that focus on the brand and then augmenting with paid, that's sometimes a bit of a hard sell, but it's clearly had great success for you all.
Yeah. And it's because she's so highly competent that that's where we are, right? So that's, when I talk about, Linda is just a highly competent marketing leader, and that makes all the difference in the world.
For sure. Okay, Rob, as we move toward the end of the podcast, there are two questions that we ask every guest.
Fire away.
And the first is going to be, you kind of already answered it, but I'll put a bit more of a point on it here. So we're recording this in April of 2025. Fast forward 5 years. So look at 2030. What big shifts or disruptions do you see coming for the industry that sales leaders and revenue leaders should be preparing for?
So, yeah, I think a couple of things. I think AI, if in the next 12 months you haven't invested in AI in some way, shape, or form, you just will not exist. The reality is your window for investment around this stuff is narrowing because of the speed by which I think folks are going to start to adopt this and the natural cost and productivity enhancements that is going to drive. So you have an incredibly short window to figure this out for your firm to continue to operate, frankly. That's how stark and transformative this stuff is going to be. For the ones that figure this out, what we are going to find is enterprise value per employee is going to change dramatically. And I think that's a good thing. I think productivity has been proven to be a good thing over time. It lifts all boats, and there are some real positive things that are going to happen. All that said, it is not going to replace humans. I do not see a replacement of humans within 5 years. What I see is an increasingly more augmented view of what it's going to do to help humans out. And that is going to, like I said, just change the enterprise value per employee, revenue per employee, however you want to look at it. That's really what it's going to do. And I think that's good. I think SaaS prices will come down. I think scarcity will largely go away. I think, I think this has a lot of potential to be very good for everybody.
I love it. That's good advice. It's good to hear. And the second question is, Rob, if you could go back 5, 10, maybe even 15 years in the past and give career advice to your younger self, what would it be and why?
So 2 things, I think it was Mark Twain who said youth is wasted on the young. And I think I think that there's some real prescience to that particular statement. Everything was so life and death 15 years ago. It was so important. It was so, the decisions, I labored over decisions and just got frustrated. And, and I think I would just go back and say, take a deep breath, calm down, think about what we're doing and why. Don't try and be the smartest person in the room. Listen to people more, embrace differences of opinions more, and you'll end up at the same result with just being more harmonious, a more harmonious same result. And that's what I would say to myself. Take a deep breath. Being driven is great, but yeah, that's how I would answer that question.
I love it. And I think I'm allowed to be biased because it's my podcast.
Sure.
Rob, thank you so much. One of my favorite episodes for sure.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Appreciate being here.
Yeah, you're welcome. If people want to learn more about you and Readymode, where should they go?
Yeah, so readymode.com. That's where I sort of live and breathe these days. So yeah, we're doing some really interesting stuff in proactive outbound engagement, and feel free to check out our AI and play around with it and see what you think. And then, we're going to be launching our own version of AI over, coming months. And we're really excited about it because we think we're going to be able to help a lot of companies improve their salespeople as well. So we're really excited about it.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thanks again.
Thanks, Cory.
You've been listening to the B2B Revenue Executive Experience. To ensure that you never miss an episode, subscribe to the show in iTunes or your favorite podcast player. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.